What ridiculous thing do people brag about for some reason? By Ask Reddit.
How savage they are, aka how badly they f'd someone over.
Some people rise up by improving themselves. Others do it by bringing those around them down. I usually assume the brag is a defense mechanism, show of power to compensate for something.
I worked with this chick. She was kind of my superior but not directly. She had so many anecdotes about how she put someone down and how she told someone off. Every time she talked to anyone she needed to go and brag about how she told them. That's when she wasn't trying to manipulate everything like some criminal mastermind in a dull everyday life. She was a fed up person, but in a way I liked her.
I have a couple ex-co-workers who loved to brag about how many people they had fired. They got fired.
I had a coworker who thought I was flexing on them by using chopsticks.
Plot twist, he was eating Mexican food.
At that point, you were just overflexing.
Double twist. It was tortilla soup.
I'm not a smart guy, but I used to read a lot as a kid, not really anymore sadly. I work in a blue-collar, working-class field and some of the other guys will think I'm flexing on them by using big words. An example would be, contrived.
Ha. I had a coworker once snarl at me about how I was showing off my college degree, with my big ol' vocabulary, like, dude. I didn't even have one. Sorry, I like books, they're free, FFS.
I come from a really pooty town and was once called a snob in the waiting room at the dentist for reading a book while I waited. It was a normal popular fiction book and someone felt the need to say out loud that they assumed I thought I was better than them for reading a book.
What's funny is they probably do think you are better than them. They just manipulated their insecurity in a way to attack you for it, like it's your fault they think that way.
I'd probably have tried to teach them to read too if they'd asked nicely.
That is the kind of comeback you imagine 3 weeks later while showering.
How self-centered do you have to be to see a complete stranger reading a book in a waiting room and think they are trying to offend you in particular?
I live in a pretty rural, less educated area and have had this happen to me too. Using a word with more than 2 syllables made them think I was trying to be a smartass.
Sounds like where I grew up. My brother was hit by a drunk driver years ago, and my family took the drunk to court. The jury was made up of folks I had known my entire life. I had to pass notes to our attorney several times, reminding him that several of the jurors dropped out in 8th grade to farm. Using big city words was not gonna win him any points with those folks.
This is why Kevin Hart's scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin is the best. After one of the characters used words like condescending and amicably, Kevin responded, "You're using a lot of big words, and since I don't understand them, I'm going to take it as a sign of disrespect." He was an unknown when the movie came out, but doing stand-up, that entire scene made me go watch him live.
I've had people accuse me of using big words, and I don't know how to tell them they're not big words without revealing I really do think they're a bunch of dumb FS.
Honestly, not knowing what a word doesn't mean you're dumb. But giving people poo when you don't know a word makes it way more likely.
How very idiocracy of them.
Welcome to Costco, I love you.
Ew, someone swallowed a dictionary. Someone said this to me at work when I used the word amiable.
What do you mean am I able? Of course I am.
I've had the same. I read a book about a guy in jail who took classes and one of the teachers used big words. The guys taking the class asked the teacher to use words they understand, and he said, "I'm not going to bring down my vocabulary. But you can learn, just look up the words you don't know, and soon you won't have as many you don't know." I took that to heart and now I don't bring my vocabulary down. But I will, without judgment, define what I said if someone, usually my husband, asks what I meant. We had to have a talk, because he thought he was dumb and I was making fun of how dumb he was for using big words. He isn't dumb, just not a big reader. Knowledge is different than intelligence. And I don't call him out if he uses a word wrong, just tell him one-on-one that it was used the wrong way, and tell him a better way to use said word. I don't even think he realizes his vocabulary has grown as well.
I started bringing down my vocabulary when I noticed some people were too self-conscious to ask me what the word means and were sometimes only pretending to understand me.
I preemptively tailor my vocabulary to match the other person, which could be weird. I'm not going to say, intermittent, to someone who never went to college in a rural area. I'm definitely going to say, comes and goes. It feels more polite for me to talk so someone will feel comfortable and understand me, but maybe it's just condescending. Maybe it's old-timely biblical condescending with no negative connotation. It does mean I'm making snap judgments about people, which is unappealing, but most of the time it's family anyway and I know their deal.
When I was in 2nd grade, my teacher had us get those steno notepads, and whenever we didn't know what a word meant in class or when we were reading, we had to write it down and then look up the definitions by the end of the week. This stuck with me throughout all of my schooling, and it definitely had an impact. My husband also felt, sometimes still does, what yours did.
Narcissism 101. Anything someone else does that could attract the smallest amount of attention is a personal attack.
I came out as gay a couple years ago and I was getting some attention from friends and family, nothing mean, they were all just curious. I guess my friend noticed and one day asked if I was gay, and suddenly came out, would you be mad that I took the attention away from you? With this poo-eating grin on their face. Like WTF, I was so caught off guard by that question. Long story short, we're not friends anymore.
NGL, I read that as I came out as a gay couple and spent a few seconds trying to work out the logistics of being a gay couple.
Wow. Although the best response would be to be immediately supportive of him and see how far that goes.
What the F? LMAO.
How little time they have. It's annoying how they'd be bewildered about how people would have time to watch films or read books and make comments about how they could never find the time, but then I'd see them be on social media for 8+ hours.
Yes, they're like, I wish I had time for those completely manageable things. You're so lucky, I'm just so busy all the time, every single minute of every single day.
I once asked a colleague if she had read anything good lately. Her answer: I can tell you don't have kids.
Yes. 100%, I don't have time to watch TV. Yes, you do. You just do other things. Which is fine, but don't act like you don't have time. The other version I like is, hobby, is such a waste of time. Proceeds to watch sports and news all day every day.
It always boggles my mind how kids of rich parents flex their money. Like you didn't do anything.
6 figures, I was only 4.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
As someone who grew up with very little, I always had basics, thankfully, but anything beyond that was my responsibility. This has always been a sore spot for me. Even as an adult who can afford nice things now, I'm still very aware of disparity. I have become hypersensitive to make sure that I'm not doing that to others through myself or kids.
When people try to one-up others' struggles with their own, i.e. my life is so much worse. It's sad, really. Why do you need to convince others that you have it harder than them? And they seem to always sound happy discussing it because it makes them feel superior in some way. Maybe that person's issues might not seem big to you, but they're big to that person. Edit. Thank you tons for the awards, everyone. Glowing star heart. Edit 2. I've been seeing a lot of responses to my comment saying, I do this, I'm not sure what else to say besides sharing my story that will show that I care. My comment is not about people who share similar experiences per se, more so about people who minimize others' problems and maximize their own. Nonetheless, here's some general advice from a 25-year-old who still doesn't know what she's doing on this planet, but has learned some things. Take it or leave it. Either way, I still love you. There are plenty of ways to respond. Think of why you would present an issue you're having to someone else. Maybe you're seeking advice, maybe it's just to vent, maybe it's for support. Sometimes a simple, that really sucks, I'm really sorry you went through that, is all people are looking for. I also don't think that responding with a similar experience is necessarily a bad thing, so long as there is a reason for it. I experienced blank too, so you're not alone in that. It does suck, or I've experienced blank too, so I don't know exactly how you're feeling, but I do understand how it feels to ____. Let me know if you ever need to talk about it, or here's something I learned from it, maybe it could help you _____. It's usually clear what someone is looking for when they come to you with a problem as long as you listen intently. And if you're not sure, it's easy to ask, are you looking to vent, or for advice? Hope that helps. Glowing star.
In a Yorkshire accent, when I were a lad we were so poor we ate stones for breakfast and that were a luxury.
Right. I had to get up in the morning at 10 o'clock at night, half an hour before I went to bed, drink a cup of sulfuric acid, work 29 hours a day down mill, and pay mill owner for permission to come to work, and when we got home, our dad and our mother would kill us and dance about on our graves singing hallelujah. Edit. Thanks so much for the award, love. You gooeyes. Smiling face with hearts.
You try and tell the young people of today that, and they won't believe you.
They just don't know born to thee.
Luxury.
Breakfast. We only had stones for breakfast on Christmas.
This bugs the effing poo out of me. I've went through a lot of trauma, but as soon as I seen this poo popping up when I was a teenager, I kept everything to myself because if I didn't I'd start a trauma war. It's not a competition.
Same, been through a lot of trauma, hardships that most people simply don't expect because of how I present myself, but growing up, I was one of those kids who tried to one-up people because I was seeking validation that my problems were significant. Living in a household where I was told my problems were silly, or where if I was crying it was questioned instead of sympathized, really FS with you. After about age 18 I realized that even though I was coming from an innocent place, I was doing the exact thing that others did to me, minimizing their problems. With kids, I can sympathize a bit because they simply aren't mentally developed enough to understand that others are living a life just as important as your own. But now I'm 25 and seeing full-grown adults do this in conversations to this day bothers the poo out of me too.
I think it's them trying to relate to the person who's explaining their struggles. The problem is that people don't usually want to be related to so much as listened to. Reading How to Win Friends and Influence People and Never Split the Difference have really helped me realize that I need to shut up more often and just let people talk. I'm really bad at shutting up. Like, look at this paragraph. I won't stop typing. I'm going to stop typing. I swear.
Not taking vacation days.
I hate this workaholic aspect of American culture. We need to change it. While work is obviously important, there is more to life than work and productivity.
It's so confusing to me as a Brit. Everyone here always looks forward to their holidays, vacations, and I get hounded by my workplace to make sure I've taken all my annual leave days. I've never heard of someone purposefully not taking their holiday. It's just bonkers to me.
I'm also British, and I'm literally leaving work an hour early every day this week because I had exactly 5 hours of leave left. It wasn't enough for a full day off, but my managers wouldn't have let me not take it even if I'd wanted to. So they arranged this for me. Literally since January they've been hounding all of us to use up leave before the leave year resets on April 1st. Most people had a lot left because nobody was really using any last year because they were holding out for the end of lockdown, but even with the huge backlog they found a way for everyone to use up every last minute. Using leave is expected, and not using it is 100% not seen as anything to be proud of here.
That's great. I also sometimes get an afternoon off here and there if I had to stay late for a few days etc. We're so lucky we have this attitude to time off in the UK. I can't imagine how stressed I'd be if I had to work 60 to 70 hour weeks constantly, and/or have no proper time off. I always come back to work so refreshed and productive after a week off, or even a long weekend. I love my job, but time off is so important.
If you think American working culture is bad, just hop west over the Pacific and visit Japan. Next level workaholics. People don't retire because they don't want society to look down on them for being lazy. Probably a bunch of other Asian countries, but I only know Japan for sure.
Asian here. Japan, Korea, Singapore and Philippines. Especially in the Philippines where I worked for a decade, taking vacation and days off, even medical reasons, are frowned upon. I've experienced many times how my former bosses would call me at 6 a.m. on Sundays to troubleshoot a minor issue that could wait for Monday. I have friends in the IT sector working until 11 p.m. on weekends or sometimes even half past midnight during Christmas and public holidays without extra pay.
Oh, screw that. I'm the type of guy to actually save up and use his max vacation days at every opportunity. I don't care how bad it makes me look, I earned a break and I intend to have it. On top of that, the US needs to adapt to allowing mandatory vacation days. Almost every other first world country does it, with some giving as much as a full month. It's a brutal joke.
I always unplug for vacations. It has made people I worked with mad, but it's my time. I also always turn off my cell phone when I come home. If there is an emergency, we have a landline.
Anyone else like to check their work emails on vacation, not to respond, but to feel good about all the bullpoo you get to miss out on?
Nope, because I don't use my personal phone for work. Big company. It's a hassle that I don't need, and I don't bring my laptop on vacation.
I can almost get this one, because my company pays out unused vacation days 2 weeks before Christmas. But people that brag about not taking sick days? F off. You plague rat.
At my job, sick leave builds up indefinitely, and you can count sick leave towards your retirement, so you can retire earlier. People hoard it like a dragon with his gold and come in sick all the time. It's annoying as hell.
My dad had this at his job. He hoarded sick days for decades. In 20 years, I never witnessed him use a sick day. After 37 years on the job, as a lieutenant for the final 10, in corrections, do you know what that earned him? He retired 6 months early from built-up sick days. That's it. 6 effing months and a pat on the back.
Yay, that's how it works.
Being a responsible parent. Bitch, that's the minimum standard.
I take care of my kids. You're supposed to, you dumb mother effer, Chris Rock.
What you want? A cookie?
I have a 17-year-old daughter and I get tired of people acting like I'm a top-tier father because I do things like take her shopping, tell her I'm proud of her when she tries her best, or make time in the evening with her for TV or a game. It's the bare effing minimum. The reason we have such pooty dads these days is because people expect literally nothing from them. We act like if they stick around, they're good dads. F that.
Moms hate this for you too, sad face. What irks me on top of that is when a dad is responsible and involved like you are and they tell the mom that she's so lucky as if she's subpar to other moms who have to do it all to compensate for their uninvolved husbands. What a poo move. Celebrate good relationships and stop setting the bar so low. It's toxic and insulting to everyone.
I'm trying to stop saying I'm lucky for having a husband who parents well. I just don't know what else to say that conveys my gratitude while not putting him on a pedestal. He doesn't brag about himself or anything, but I do want him and others to know I appreciate him.
Try grateful or thankful. It shows it's less a random act of chance and more so that you recognize that they improve your life and make you a happier person by all they do in it.
This just made me tear up. I wish my father would make time for me, or tell me he's proud of me. Luckily I have a really awesome uncle who listens to me and understands me.
When I see this, it's because they're typically feeling guilty for failing somewhere, somehow. As a parent, I am completely aware of the fact that all parents make mistakes. Myself included. However, those I see that have to let everyone else know what a great parent they are is because, in fact, they are not a great parent. And it's not just a mistake they made but a continuous lifestyle. I don't really recall ever seeing parents that are genuinely doing their best, and doing a pretty great job at that, going on about what an amazing parent they are. There's a correlation there.
And any man who must say, "I am king," is no true king at all. George R.R. Martin, A Storm of Swords.
Here to check if I'm being too annoying about anything.
Everyone hates everyone, that's my theory.
Can confirm. Source, me. I hate everyone equally.
People who brag about the amount of WD they can smoke and or how much alcohol they can drink.
I brag about how drunk I can get on a small amount of alcohol.
Being a lightweight is financially responsible.
Someone once bragged to me about how much prescribed WD they smoked BC of their chronic depression. Honestly, I didn't care about how much they smoked until they added that in. So I tried shifting the conversation to how he was really doing and started dropping in, "I don't tell anyone this." Apparently not even his doctor. I know depression is *** complicated and it's far from "take this you'll be fine." However, your illness making you do a lot of X is not an accomplishment, it's a sign that it isn't working and maybe try something else or in addition. Edit. And 2 is ***.
How they don't read.
As a working adult who's also going to school, I am sad that I don't have the energy to read for fun anymore. I read a lot for work and school. It makes me sad when people say they just don't read.
Who's bragging about this and why would they think this is a positive attribute?
There was a common attitude among my classmates that reading is for losers and nerds only. I still meet adults who say crap like, "Lol, I never read a book." If it's that good, they'll make a movie about it anyway.
Because no movie based on a great book has ever sucked. Damn, I wish they'd make a movie based on Aragon. It'll be awesome.
Ever been to a small town 15 minutes outside lost and confused? There are proudly uneducated people here.
I live in a small town, and I do know a lot of people who don't read, or even brag about the last time they read it was in high school for an assignment. I am a retired librarian's daughter, so books are my life, and I read at least 2 a week, maybe more depending on my free time, or if I take my kid to practice an amp, read while waiting. I have had adults actually come up to me while reading, and say, "Is that a book?" in a condescending way, like we are back in 4th grade and amp, it's just not cool to read. I don't get it. I think things are changing now though. I have a 4th grader, and she got everyone in her class hooked on a series of books she's been reading.
As an author I can't stand this one, but yes, I will confirm that even adults, when they hear I'm an author, will proudly inform me that they don't read. I've even been mocked for writing sci-fi and fantasy because that's all make-believe, so you must not know anything. You have to know a lot to make a story real. My writing is not where the ignorance lies, that's for certain.
Professors bragging about how many students fail their class. They use it to terrorize students and wear it as though it's a badge of honor. It's unbelievable how full they are of themselves, that not once did they ever pause and ponder if the failing rate was due to their lacking. Well, just like that one viral post said, I guess congratulations to you ma'am, sir, you suck at your job. Additional, it irks me when some professors think of themselves highly because they have all these degrees and got off from a great university, and so on, to the point that they're completely dismissive and unreasonably mean. Like, come on, you aren't even that competent. You cannot teach to save a life, let alone actually educate us, and yet you have the nerve to be totally inconsiderate and boastful. Exploding head edit, I've read responses saying that some professors use this as a motivation or encouragement to students. As odd as it may be, it happens, I know I've experienced it too. So I agree with that, probably don't just write them off immediately. Plus, this exempts professors who teach filter classes. Forgot to clear that part out. In this post I was more of pertaining to professors Gen Ed or non-filtering class, who brag about failing rates with the main purpose to demoralize them, those who are just outright arse and do not even care if a student learns a thing or two. But more importantly, I want to add, a huge thank you to those professors who continuously strive for the better of students. I know this is a challenging time for you, just as it is for us. We want you to know that we appreciate all your considerations and understanding, your efforts and adjustments. Professors that are super strict yet considerate and highly effective are truly a gem. Edit PT. 2. Stop gatekeeping education. There's a difference between being strict to maintain academic excellence and being just an absolute arse. Don't be an arse. Read a comment here saying a lot of students don't belong in college. Who are you to keep them off from receiving higher education? That's just problematic. It just goes to show how much work is left to be done in improving the educational system.
I had one that bragged about how he never had a class average higher than 75%. Like, dude, that's bad.
I had a professor take a year off to write his own curriculum. He apparently didn't test it. 20% withdrew, half that remained were failing. Nobody had an A. No one could understand his expectations. Quiz questions were like if he circled the head and top hat of a stick figure and all he wrote was identify. Do you want head, hat, top hat? Are we supposed to know that's Fred? I told him this and he was like, oh yeah. Name a bad question. You used an overhead shot with zero depth perception of an exotic flower with sepals the same odd shape and color as the petals. I knew in advance you'd have sepal asterisk as the gotcha question. And I still got it wrong. If you'd used any other photo, angle, or species, if you'd used a side view diagram, it would have been fine. He got real quiet. Only 1 out of 43 students got that right. The one student who got it right was in lab listening to us. Apparently he'd asked specifically about that photo in the text because it was so hard to tell what was in it. He then wanted me to go to his office with him and tell him every question that was bad. But I refused because they all were. I will pray on this, he said, which is not what you want to hear from someone failing half his section on ecology and evolution. That professor still made a PowerPoint presentation saying of our failing grades trend may be destiny, and insisting that we needed to study more, but the scatterplot he added of our lab study times showed no such pattern. You were just as likely to fail if you spent 4 hours in lab or 20. A couple weeks later, he panicked suddenly as we were going over fungal reproductive cycles. He was suddenly possessed of a thought as we went over an illustration that showed mushrooms in a circle like ours on a clock. He gravely warned us that mushrooms don't actually rotate in place to reproduce. That's how stupid he thought we were. Asterisk the normally green-colored part of the flower that covers petals when they aren't in bloom. Since everyone knows stem and petal, etc., but sepal is a lesser-known but equally basic structure, it's Professor Test Candy.
Is he still teaching?
I'm not sure he ever even started.
High schoolers who try to flex the expensive overpriced clothing that their parents bought for them.
I have a friend, 24Y, who constantly brags about his $500 jeans and $300 hoodies and Apple Watches. Dude still lives with his parents.
I don't even understand the brag. Like, congrats, you wasted a ton of money on some clothes? Just makes the person sound stupid to me.
He sounds very stupid when he forces the phrase, Apple Watch, into sentences. Straight up says poo like, let me check the time on my Apple Watch, and every time I want to scream.
You should lean into it and force it into the conversation yourself. Hey, can you tell me what time it is on your Apple Watch?
Call it an iWatch so they have to correct you.
Oh no. Call it a Fitbit.
This guy woke up and chose chaos. People who brag about how little sleep they got.
Is that actual bragging or complaining for the sake of receiving sympathy though? I mean, I know people who sometimes complain about lack of sleep. I never really saw it as bragging.
High school and college is really the peak time for it. It becomes complaining and a plea for understanding afterwards.
Sometimes it's a competition. Thoman, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. Dude, I only got 2.
It's always in the context of trying to one-up someone else. One person will say, I'm so tired, I only got 7 hours of sleep. Person 2 will then be like, 7? I only got 4. You're so lucky. Person 3 is like, 4? I was up all night and slept for 30 minutes. It always becomes a weird competition to see whose sleep schedule is the worst.
You guys get sleep?
Yeah, this really confuses me. It's like, congrats. I got a nice 7 to 8 hours last night, but you do you.
As a lifelong insomniac, I feel this. It's something I tend to keep to myself, but it's been an issue since I was 16 and I frequently have to use sleep medication. On the odd occasion I'm at lunch with colleagues or friends and I'm tired, sleepy or yawning and someone notices and I say, oh, I didn't sleep well last night. Someone always tries to one-up that. Like why?
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.